Payback time.
Hey guys, if you're looking for some cheese, you come to the right place. That's right, I'm going to show you this Bashblade that's so OP, it's boring. It's a classic tank and spank build, and will make you a better person than anything. We're going to look at the things that make it work, and at the end I'll share some gameplay tips with you. It's so strong I don't even play it anymore because it's too easy, but if you're trash at PvP, hopefully this build can carry you and you'll like it. They're onto this build and they are going to nerf it. It's very broken. Just like the subscribe button below, try it out and let me know if it works. But I still think this build will still be strong after they nerf it because it's tanky and able to do damage. So you basically need no skill to play it. Plus there are new sets coming out in the next update you can use that will make it hit just as hard. This build is great for PvP, PvE, or if you're just bored, lonely, and want some attention. Let's take a look at our stats real quick. For our stats, we want to put all points into health. With this build, we actually do more damage the more health we have. We'll take a closer look at why later on. Here's what our stats look like fully buffed. Our bash tooltip is doing about 68-23 damage. We have about 43k health and 44k resistances. We're a cat because they get 12% more crit damage. I think this is the best race to get the most amount of bash damage with. Nord is also a good choice because they come with more resistance, but they won't do as much damage, and they're not as cool. Okay, let's look at our sets. For the first 5-piece set, we're running Deadlands Demolisher. It adds over 900 bash damage, and also gives an AoE proc that I've seen hit over 15k. The next 5-piece set we're running is Veiled Heritance, because it adds over 500 bash damage. All of our armor traits are reinforced for the added resistance, and the belt and gloves are Nirnhoned. This gives us the highest amount of resistance to buff our bash damage. Our bling should be all infused and enchanted with bash. That gives us about 800 bash damage per piece if you're using gold jewelry. For the weapon, I use the Master Sword and Shield. You might be asking, Asian, why would you use that, you noob? Well, here's why. With Puncture, we not only get healed, but we get extra resistance that scales with how much health we have. I did the math, and this increases our bash by another 200 damage. I'm using the defending trait on the sword and reinforced on the shield for the added resistance, but sharpened or precise work well too. For the off-bar weapon, I'm using the Asylum Sword and Shield for the added defense and magic recovery. Let's look at those skills. Our first bar is our offensive bar. All these skills combined make us slap harder than Will Smith. Our first skill is Puncture. This increases our bash damage two ways. One, by reducing their resistances by under 9,000, and two, by increasing our resistance from our master weapon, thus increasing our bash damage. Our second skill is Power Slam. I use it as the execute or when I need to burst someone quickly. Third skill is Camo Hunter, giving us 5% more damage and making more of our bashes crit. For our fourth skill, I'm using Mirage. It gives us even more resistance, increasing our bash damage, and also makes us more tanky by mitigating AoE damage by 20%. Last skill is Race Against Time, for that 10% extra crit damage for our bashes, as well as speed, which is important since we have low mobility. For the ultimate, I'm using Soul Harvest. Opening with this increases our bash damage by another 20%. I like Soul Harvest for the ultimate gain and reduced healing, but either morph is fine. Our second bar is our defensive bar. On our second bar, I start with Blinding Flare for the 10% reduced damage, and also 10% more magic regen. Our second skill, I'm using Meditate. This is where we get most of our sustain, but also 30% less damage while we're in this state. For the third skill, I like to use Shade. Since we lack mobility, this skill really helps us get out of sticky situations. It also reduces a single opponent's damage by 15%, which is nice. Fourth skill is Dark Cloak. Since we have a lot of health, we get a pretty good heal from this, and it also reduces our damage taken by another 5% while it's up. It's important to keep this up because the Shadow passive, which increases our resistance and bash damage. The fifth skill is Defensive Stance. This reduces our damage even more while blocking, makes blocking cheaper, and with the Asylum Sword and Shield, we get really good magic sustain from this. The ultimate is our Shield ult. This combined with Meditate, Dark Cloak, and Blinding Flare makes us really hard to kill. Alright, now I'm going to show you guys my CP and the rest of our buffs. For the blue tree, I use Master at Arms, Deadly Aim, Fighting Finesse, and Reaving Blows. Reaving Blows is huge because each bash procs the heal, so it's basically like a constant heal over time while we're bashing. When I farm bosses in the Imperial City, my health is at 100% the whole time because of this. For the red tree, I do Boundless Vitality, Fortified, Celerity, and Pain's Refuge. You can do whatever you want for the green CP tree. For the Mundus Stone, you can use either the Shadow, the Lady, the Lover, or the Thief. I use the Lady because it gives us damage and resistance, but if you want pure damage, go with the Shadow. For food, I like to use the Tripe Trifle Pocket for the extra health and stamina regen. Tripods are my go-to potions, which really helps our sustain. I'm also a stage 3 vampire for the Undeath passive. And finally, for the enchantments, I use all health on the armor, and for the weapons, I like to use the double dot poisons for the free damage. Okay, let's check out some sick gameplay. Don't be afraid to run straight into a Zerg. This build can take a beating, like my mom. I don't recommend trying to use doors in combat. They're more broken than this build. You want to assert your dominance right off the bat. Just let everyone know how big your balls are. It'll take them off guard, and we can use that to our advantage. You want to put constant pressure on one opponent at a time, because we really don't have any AoE capability. One of the great things about having a lot of health is that no one focuses on you. They don't know how much damage you can do, so we're like a wolf in sheep's clothing. A pro tip is to change the keybind for bash. Mine is the F key. This way you can bash without blocking, which means we can regain stamina while bashing. Also, get those heavy attacks in when you can. Fortunately, bash is very cheap, and even at 1200 stamina recovery, I don't have any issues with sustain. You want to keep your buffs up all the time. Our typical rotation is Pierce Armor, followed by 5 seconds of bashing. It's important to keep Race Against Time up too, since most people are scared and will run away from you. Always keep Dark Cloak up. This build doesn't have a burst heal, so you want your health to be topped off. Use Soul Harvest when you can be more offensive, but save up for your shield ultimate when you're outnumbered. Even though this build is easy to play, it's still important that you focus on managing resources, line of sight, and prioritizing targets. Okay guys, that's it for this build video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.